Summer for us means ice cream, AC, and complaining about the heat. Summer for ancient humans meant something completely different. It was the most important season of the year. The season where you either prepared everything you needed to survive or you didn't make it to spring. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how they spent every single day of it. And some of what they did is smarter than anything we do in summer. We think of summer as a break. Ancient humans thought of summer as their only window. Days were long. Animals were fat and moving in predictable patterns. Plants were producing fruit, roots, and seeds. Rivers were full of fish. The warm weather meant working until you physically couldn't. Not because someone forced them. Because they understood with absolute clarity that the window would close. Every hour of summer daylight was a resource. Wasting it was the same as leaving food on the ground to rot. Hunting in summer was nothing like hunting in winter. In winter, you tracked desperate hungry animals through snow to find a lean kill. In summer, the animals were fat, slow-moving, and gathered near water. A single summer mammoth kill could produce enough fat, protein, and material for an entire family to use for months. Ancient hunters knew where the migration routes were. They positioned themselves in advance. They hunted cooperatively, driving animals toward cliffs or water. Summer hunting wasn't about survival in the moment. It was about producing a surplus massive enough to carry the group through the cold months ahead. But that's not even the craziest part. Summer was the season when ancient humans did something we completely forgot how to do. They processed absolutely everything. Every animal killed was processed completely. Bones were cracked for marrow and then boiled for bone broth. Sinew was stripped and dried for thread. Hides were scraped, stretched, and cured in the sun. Fat was rendered and stored. Organs were eaten immediately or dried. Nothing was left. The processing efficiency of a hunter-gatherer group processing a large kill would make a modern butcher uncomfortable. They weren't wasteful because they couldn't afford to be. Every part of every animal had a specific use that had been identified across thousands of years of trial and error. Hunting gets all the attention. But plant gathering was the bulk of summer food production in most environments. And it was done primarily by women and children. Berry season, nut season, root season, and seed season all had specific windows. Missing them meant they were gone until next year. Groups tracked these windows across their entire territory, moving camps to be in the right place at the right time. Berries were eaten fresh but also dried in the sun on flat rocks to produce a concentrated food that lasted months. Nuts were stored in pits. Roots were cooked and dried. Seeds were ground into a rough flour. Summer plant gathering was essentially running a distributed food processing operation across a landscape the size of a small county. But here's where it gets strange. Ancient humans spent a significant part of summer making things. Not just tools for immediate use. Containers, clothing, and weapons that they would need months in the future. New spear shafts were straightened and hardened over summer fires. Flint was knapped and shaped. Baskets were woven from summer grasses. Animal skins processed earlier were sewn into winter clothing while there was enough light and warmth to do fine work comfortably. Summer was the workshop season. The group was producing physical goods inventory for a future they were planning for explicitly. Children were taught skills during these long light days. Elder members passed on knowledge about which plants grew where, which routes the animals would take in autumn, which locations had reliable water through winter. Winter forced small groups into tight shelters and kept them there. Summer allowed movement and contact. Different family groups that had been separated through winter would meet at known locations near summer hunting grounds or berry-rich areas. These gatherings were not just social events. They were gene pool management, information exchange, dispute resolution, and trade. A group that had produced too many stone tools traded with a group that had better access to dried fish. Mating happened at these summer gatherings at a population scale that winter contact couldn't support. Young people met partners from other groups. Alliances were formed. Knowledge about new territories, new resources, and new threats was exchanged. The summer gathering was the ancient internet, except the information was accurate and the people were real. And it gets even darker. Summer was also when ancient humans did what we would call medicine. Certain plants only flowered in summer, and those flowers and leaves were gathered specifically for use during winter illnesses. Willow bark, which contains salicin, the compound that aspirin is based on, was harvested in summer and stored. Certain roots with antimicrobial properties were gathered and dried. This wasn't random herb collecting. Archaeological evidence shows specific plant species appearing consistently in ancient storage sites across multiple cultures, suggesting deliberate selection based on experienced medical effect. Ancient humans were running a distributed pharmaceutical supply chain in summer to stock a winter medicine supply. The summer nights that didn't get used for sleep got used for everything else. Firelight extended the working day. Stories were told. Music existed in the form of bone flutes, which have been found at sites over 40,000 years old. Cave paintings in some locations appear to have been made by firelight, with the flickering light creating an animation-like effect on the painted animals. Rock art was added to, maintained, and created at summer sites. The social knowledge of the group, the histories, the rules, the cosmologies, the identities, was transmitted orally through story and song during these long summer evenings. Culture was produced in summer, not as a luxury, as essential maintenance of the social software that held the group together. Ancient humans didn't spend summer relaxing. They spent it building. The animal fat rendered in August. The dried berries packed and stored in July. The sinew thread dried and coiled in June. The winter clothing being sewn right now. In the warmth. By people who could feel the cold coming even though it was months away. Every action in summer was an investment in a future version of their life that they were designing explicitly. They were running a year-long project management operation with no writing, no calendar, and no safety net. We inherited that body. We inherited that brain. We just forgot what the schedule was for. The calendar that drives us toward rest in summer is the same calendar that once drove our ancestors toward their most productive months. The warmth didn't mean stop. It meant the window was open. Every ancient human alive understood that at a level so deep it didn't need to be stated. The ones who forgot it didn't make it to spring.